Thumbnail. That's it. Perfect, thank you.
You're just punching my coffee with my hand.
That's a coffee, looks like iced tea.
It's coffee.
What kind of coffee?
Cafe Verona, cold brew.
Okay, respect. Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Plays and Fades YouTube channel. I'm your co-host Gordo Gambles, joined by this beauty of a man here, Kirod. And it's a pay-per-view in 2022. I'm absolutely hyped, balls to the wall. I'm going all in for this one. And what? You're throwing me off my bike here. You know what? We have an absolutely beautiful slate here with a lot of money to be made, and I can't make any balls to the wall comments apparently. Anyways, how are we doing, my friend?
Good, unless my balls are on the wall. Anyway, we're doing well this week. Obviously, it's super exciting. Finally having a pay-per-view card. It's second card of the year, but first pay-per-view. And it's a big one in terms of that main event and co-main. I mean, Ngannou gone, an extremely hyped up fight. Two elite heavyweight fighters. And then you got the Figueiredo-Moreno fight, which is an incredible co-main as well. I mean, that first fight was incredible. That second fight, Moreno becoming the first ever Mexican UFC champ, that was huge. And now we get the trilogy fight, and that's an exciting one too. The rest of the card, people say doesn't have a lot of big names on it, but we know that this is going to be an exciting card. There's a lot of people who get a lot of finishes out here. There's a lot of people having their first time in the UFC happening this weekend, and that is a recipe for an extremely exciting card as a cherry on top to that main and co-main event.
Like you said, man, 8 fighters making their UFC debut on a pay-per-view card. A lot of people will take that as a bad thing. I'm actually just excited. It's one of these ones where a lot of these fighters are finishers to kill or to be killed. I'm able to use that knowledge, that big brain with the balls to the wall to make these killer UFC lineups. I say we take away my speaking privileges and get to the stuff that really matters. We have a 13-fight slate here, and honestly, I am pumped. There's a lot of coverage. Let's get started. First things first, let's talk about this main and co-main, all right? This is one of the most anticipated heavyweight fights that I've seen in a very, very long time. Ngannou gained 2 very opposite game plan stylistic matchups. Who are we taking here for the main event of the first pay-per-view of the year?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fight where you can almost see it playing out in your head, right? I mean, Gon has a similar game plan against a lot of those big heavyweight fighters. Guys with a lot of power, he likes to stay away from, and because of his athleticism, he can do that. And Ngannou, obviously, way less of a technical fighter, but we know he has that massive knockout power. What that means for us in DraftKings, though, is that on the cash side, we maybe like Gon a little bit more. At $8,400, if he does a good job at coming in, hitting Ngannou with a couple of punches, staying away.
And kicks.
And kicks. His kicks are elite. He could put up a decent score here with a decision win or maybe a later round win, right? But probably won't score the highest. And on the other side, at $7,900, Ngannou, we think definitely has a lot of upside there, because if he gets a big KO, he could score really big, and at $7,900, that's a very good price tag. So GPP, we like Ngannou, and cash, we like Gon.
Hey, you said it perfectly. I think if Ngannou wins, it scores decently high. I mean, hands go boom, right? That's all he's got to do is connect leather to face and hopefully hope for the best. Meanwhile, Gain's got that bigger cage, the ability to move around, kick the leg, stay out range, which will not score necessarily as high, but like you said, cash for Gain, GPP for Ngannou. Next up, though, that co-main event, this is one where I see it very easily. If Figueiredo looks good, if he's able to cut that weight without any problems, I will have a ton of ownership on him. I think he is a great underdog play if he comes in healthy and well-trained. The problem was, last time they fought, he wasn't. He had a horrible weight cut, and it showed his performance. He didn't look that bad. But let's not forget, 2 fights ago, he went out there and he won that fight. He allowed a point deduction that caused a draw, but he is a very, very talented fighter who puts up a lot of points in those wins. I think it's going to be a very action-packed fight, and I do think that Figueiredo is going to have the upper edge, and for that reason, I'm going to be having a lot of him in my DraftKings lineups. But again, make sure to follow me on Twitter just to see my thoughts on the weigh-ins and how he's looking.
Yeah, I mean, if he looks good, $7,700 for one of the elite in the UFC is a great price tag. And Moreno at $8,500, obviously he could do what he did last fight and get that win, but with the higher price tag, we think it makes a bit more sense to be on Figueiredo here, given how close that first fight was.
Let's move right along, though. I think a fight that we want to target that does not have the same star power is going to be 2 guys making their debut. I'm going to be taking a lot of Jack Della Maddalena at 9.2K. I think he's got a very, very good stylistic matchup against Rodriguez. This is one of these spots where he has the advantage on the striking, the combinations, the durability, the cardio, the grappling, the wrestling. There's so many advantages for this guy, and I really see him putting out their big numbers against a guy who only has 4 fights. in Rodriguez. The one thing I have to give credit to Rodriguez for, though, is he's got some very, very good counter punches with a lot of power at the end of them, which is his only win condition, is that first round knockout, which will score very high himself. But I think this is Della all day. He's going to be one of my core plays this week, and maybe a bit lesser owned to not having that same star value, really. So I think that he's going to go out there and put just as good a score at a price tag of 9.2K with a little bit less ownership.
Moving on to the next fighter that we like, a guy, again, at this top end of the price range, is Tony Gravely. He's a guy that we like a lot this week for specifically GPP. I mean, in his wins, he's put up some big scores. A couple fights ago, an 138-point win, which is absolutely huge, 110 before that. But the only hesitancy here is that he's been a bit unreliable. I mean, he got knocked out last time out. But here, $8,900, obviously, he's the big favorite. And he's fighting a guy in Oliveira who's making his debut into the UFC and who's getting this big step up in competition and isn't exactly known for his knockout ability, which means that that isn't as much of a concern this week with Gravely. And if he wins, he could put up a huge score here. So $8,900 pricey, but put him in some GPP lineups, he might score big for you.
We've seen him struggle in the later rounds when it comes to cardio. He got choked out by Brett Johns, choked out a couple times in the regional scene. And you got to give credit. Saman does have a decent ground game, but I think that this is Gravely's fight to lose. The reason we're calling it a GPP play is because we know he's unreliable. We know he has defensive issues. So we're going to be a bit more careful with it, but I definitely love his upside here. All right, well, we talked about two underdogs we like in that main and co-main event, but if you want another one, we're going to look down to Wellington Tournament. So at 7.2K, I do think he has a better chance than that price tag entails. But if we're going to go down there and get those 7.2K price tags, we're able to go up and afford someone just as good up top. 9.3K, Brownie Barcelos. Tell us a bit more about him.
Yeah, Barcelos is a guy that we really like up there at $9,300. He's fighting this week a guy who's making his UFC debut in Henry. And Barcelos is not a guy who's used to fighting a lot of people making their UFC debut. This guy is quite talented. He's quite a good fighter, extremely well-rounded, very good on the ground, very good striking. And he's put together a lot of wins in a row, except for his last time out when he put up 53 points in a loss. But I think bouncing back off of that, he's going to have some fire in him to take out this guy who's making his UFC debut. We think he has this matchup all day. And at $9,300, even though it is high, we think he gets it done and scores pretty well.
He's my cash option for the week. I do think he scores very, very well no matter what. It's his fight to lose. It's a huge step down going from Timur Valiev to Victor Henry. So I think this is his fight all day, and I think he scores very, very well at that 9.3K price tag. All right, moving right along. Let's get you one last underdog to round out our video here. Jasmine Judovicius here has a really, really good favorable matchup at 7.4K. Now, if they're the same size, they're the same weight class, I do think Hansen is a very, very talented fighter. The problem is she's going up a weight class. She's gonna have a huge reach and height discrepancy here. Despite that, not only is Jasmine gonna have that reach and height advantage, she's a very, very credited Canadian wrestler with a few medals in wrestling as well. So this is one where everyone thinks that Hansen's gonna come steamroller on the mat, but I think Jasmine's one of these ones who can hold her own here too. Height, reach, skills on the mat. I think she definitely has a better chance 7.4K does entail. I don't see her being knocked out or finished by Hansen, so the floor is there. Ceiling, maybe not as much, but I definitely think she has the tools to get her done, and she has a decent option at 7.4K. All right, let's close it out. One last fight to talk about. I mean, we have to mention this Iliopory versus Charles Rodan fight. I mean, hey, we started the video by saying it. Let's end it by saying it. Charles Rodan is the definition of balls to the wall. All right, let's round it out real quick. I got to mention, first of all, Michel Pereira, huge opportunity at 9.1K. He will have the advantages here, but he's just a bit untrustworthy because he's so flashy. Yeah. I don't want to really back him as much as other people at that price range. I do think that Frivola Valdez fight finishes as well. What side do I want to be on? I don't know. I think Valdez is ass, but I think that Frivola's chin is ass as well. So it's a tough one to really pick a side. A bit lower, we mentioned Demopoulos earlier. I think her win condition score is very, very high. I'm going to have a bit of her as well, but other than that, that's going to round it out. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to this absolutely beautiful slate, UFC 270. Super pumped to have this done.
Excited to be back for this year. First pay-per-view card, obviously a big one. We hope you enjoy. We certainly will be, along with NFL. Divisional round this weekend, baby. So we'll be watching that. And this, stay tuned for our NFL video this week.
Yep, that's going to do it for us, guys. Make sure to check us out on Twitter, @GamelessGordo, @PlaceFades. Let's make some money. Ding.